we have to make it okay for people to acknowledge how they are using these AI tools if we want them to be a part of kind of co-creating the future of what AI looks like with us. But I think ultimately, if like for an organization to embrace AI and figure out how to innovate their own workflows, like you need somebody who's gonna be like all in on this tool set that's changing every day.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, everyone. Welcome. I can't wait to introduce my guest today. She is absolutely someone to know, someone to learn from. And guess what? This is her return to the podcast. We originally chatted on episode 153. If you want to check out her background, her life story, what enabled her to get into the role and do the things she's doing, 153. But this was back in 2020. And we know there were a lot of things going on back in 2020, but she is back. And who is she? Serial entrepreneur, the marketing leader and thought leader in the community. She is a powerhouse in the Salesforce world. You cannot know her name if you have Salesforce or even have brushed up against it. 18x certified Salesforce MVP, marketing champion, creator of the Spot for Pardot, CEO of Sercante, and president of tech service for Trilliad, Andrea Tarrell. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. That was quite the introduction. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, holy cow, you do so much. You even mentioned you're on maternity leave and you got a couple more certs in. So like, do you ever rest? This is just crazy.
You know, having time to study and take certs feels like rest with kind of the pace of everything else. So,
Fair.
you squeeze them in where you can.
Fair. Well, I'm glad we got you for a moment because I just can't wait to get some wisdom. Just crack open that head and you like learn from you. So I'm going to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I know you are absolutely tough. Okay, here we go. Go ahead, grab that hammer. You got it? Okay. Take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
All right. So my myth is around data quality, innovation, AI. And what a lot of people think is that data is the number one thing holding businesses back from innovating. My hot take on that is that it's almost never about the data. It's usually about people, readiness for change, and fear. So the data not holding you back, your people and your fear are.
Dang. Okay. Where does this come from? What is happening? We're just like, oh, my data, it's like I was going to go to class, but then I didn't have enough data. So I didn't. I was going to get my job done, but I didn't have enough data. Where does this come from? Why are people using data as an excuse?
You said I was going to go to class. I felt the second half of that was like an Afro Man lyric, but
Yes, we're on the same page.
don't think we're talking about that here.
It is the Hardcore Marketing Show, so I guess we could be lighting it up on the pod, but we'll save that for Joe Rogan. But yeah, so like, what are people doing?
Yeah, so there's so much happening in the world of tech right now. I mean, all kinds of AI tooling, really creative, innovative things that we can do with technology. And what I see businesses falling into the trap of is saying like, "Oh, that would be so cool, but our data isn't ready, so we can't do that. We can't think about that. We can't make a move on it." Or using like data readiness assessments as kind of almost like a stall tactic to not have to like stick their neck out there and try something new or try something risky. And I think that's the wrong way to think about it. Data will never be ready. Like there's no such thing as like a perfect, clean, ready data set unless it's like something that's in a demo environment or something that you're just practicing with. Like real data, real life data is always going to be messy and unstructured and like things that you're going to have to work through. So start with figuring out what you could do or what you want to do from an AI or innovation perspective, and then worry about getting your data in order to support those use cases.
Well, interesting. So start with what you want to do. and then you'll figure out the data afterward to support that. Interesting. Where does this come from? Where does this myth of one day my data will be clean, like, where does that come from?
That's a really good question. I don't
Is this like wishful thinking? We're just like, one day my prince will come and the data will be good. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I think one of the roots of it is, like, when you're in a business, you only have the ability to see your own environment. So what I see happening all the time with marketing and sales technologists is, like, they always feel really bad about, like, the state of their stack. They're like, "Oh, well, this is great, but we're not doing this," or "We don't really have this figured out." And, um, some of the best marketers that I know, like, just have a chip on their shoulder about, like, what they built or the failings of their organization or what they see as flaws. But one of the benefits that you have as a consultant is, like, getting to peek behind the curtain of hundreds of organizations. Like, nobody's stack is perfect.
Yeah.
And even the people who are on stage at Dreamforce or speaking at Gartner or whatever, like, they don't have it all figured out. Like, there's a lot of, like, good, bad, and ugly in their environment too. And so I think some of this, like, "Oh, my data's a mess" thing comes from not seeing everybody else's data and realizing everybody else is just as messy, if not messier than you are.
Totally. So wait, tell me, the people speaking at Dreamforce have messy data? Oh my gosh.
Believe it or not. Yeah.
I feel like you heard it here.
Yeah, and there's this prompt that we use internally with helping customers think about their data and think about, like, future innovation and where they wanna go. And one of the prompts that we use is like, "Okay, imagine we are in a sparkly purple unicorn land where all of your data is connected, everything's seamless, you can get whatever you want, however you want it. Like, what would be, like, quick win thing that you would do? Like, what data would you make available or what things would you action from that data? And then what would be, like, the go big or go home, like, cool things that you could build on top of that, that would be kind of like a longer term aspirational solve?" And if you can't think of any answers to those questions, you don't have a data problem. Like, you have an imagination and an innovation problem. And so just kind of taking that, like, okay, if data weren't the barrier, like, what would we do? And then thinking through that.
Damn. I feel like you are literally there's so many things. You talk in sound bites. Like, this is amazing. Like, oh, I want to clip that. I want to clip that. I want like, holy crap. The idea of the fact that if you can't think of answers, like, okay, cool. Magically your data's sparkly. What are you gonna do? And people are like, oh, wait, I have no idea. You're like, oh, okay. So maybe it isn't the data that is, maybe you
Exactly.
just have no idea what you're doing. Wow. Shots fired. I like that. Damn. Okay. Um, so tell me about what the problem you really is then. If it's not data, we get a sense from where this comes from, and we have a sense for now how to get rid of the myth here. You mentioned people, all these other things that could get in the way of innovation. What are those things? And like, let's talk through them.
Yeah. So I think, like, if we take just sort of AI as an example, like,
Yeah.
we're realizing that with kind of the advent of all these AI tool sets, I'm not gonna drop any specific, well, I'll drop a few. Agent Force, ChatGPT, like, all, like, those LLM type of tooling. Um, when businesses are pressed to think about, like, okay, what could we solve with this? The thing that starts getting really hairy, if we put kind of the data aside and we put, like, the actual technology to the side, it
Yeah.
is anything we do is going to require people to change the way they do their work every day. And in some instances, it may take parts of people's jobs and make them, um, parts of jobs that people are very attached to, and automate that. And so I think there's a lot of fear right now around, like, okay, if this goes away, what am I going to fill that with? And I feel like we've seen this fear before with, like, different phases of automation and advancements in CRM and marketing automation. And the thing that gives me a lot of optimism is we always find an answer to that question. Like, if XYZ is automated, what else am I gonna do with my time? There's an infinite amount of shit to be done and tasks to be done in businesses. So, like, roles will evolve, but there will always be a place for people in the process, is my opinion. And so just leaning into that and being being like having an active role in defining what the next generation of your role is going to be, I think is
Yeah.
a powerful place to be.
So true. Like, don't worry, there's more to get done. But I know you like that. So yeah, the idea of the change management, and the human side of it, the frustration that no, I really like doing this
Yeah.
report or activity, or I like writing this thing that now is automated and done for me. And yeah, what does it take to then, I mean, how do you coach those people to give up those old habits or those tasks? Like they're so focused on those tasks. How do we get
Yeah.
them to let go a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, a couple things that come to mind is like, I think we need a little like honesty and vulnerability about kind of the headspace and like the emotional space of what like automating some of these things mean. So as leaders, like how can we tell our team like we don't know exactly where this is going or what this is going to look like at the end of the day, but like we trust our team to figure out like the path forward and to help us like embrace the future. So kind of having some real talk around that, I think is really important. And then I also am a strong believer in like the person who's closest to the work often has the best mindset and the best idea of how that work should get done. So in a perfect world, when you're saying, okay, how could like if I take that and apply it to Sercante, like how could I, as an engagement manager, use AI to improve my day-to-day workflow? Or as a developer, like use AI in my day-to-day work. Like you're not
Yeah.
gonna have a lot of success with somebody like three levels up or from outside the organization swooping in and being like, this is how you should do your job. Exactly. Like the person who's gonna have the most insight on how to do that job is the person who's doing the job. So figuring out like how can we enroll our team members in co-creating kind of what that future workflow should look like. Um, I think that's a big piece of it. And it goes back also to that kind of first theme of like you need that psychological safety and the vulnerability for people to engage in that way. And a lot of organizations don't have it, which is what's making some of this change really painful.
This is really powerful, and I gotta imagine the folks listening who have, you know, marketing teams, large and small, and they're thinking, "Yeah, I want to enroll our team in being co-creators. I love that. I want that." What are the things you need to do to empower them to do that? I definitely hear the safety, like experiment, try things, don't break anything, but like go forth and do. But then are we training them on how to use the tools? Like, I feel like that other than YouTubers being like, yo, this is the prompt to use, I don't feel like there's like a really good training for your team on how to experiment with it.
Yeah, and then another phenomenon that I'm noticing is like in many of our customers organizations, there are already AI super users. Like there are people who are quietly using ChatGPT 6 times an hour to do their job faster, better, more efficiently, but they're almost afraid to acknowledge it because it's like, okay, if I like give ChatGPT authorship credit or editor credit for like the piece of work that I just generated, like does that make me look bad? Does that make me look less valuable? And so like going back to that theme of like honesty and real talk, like we have to make it okay for people to acknowledge how they are using these AI tools if we want them to be a part of kind of co-creating the future of what AI looks like with us. Um, but I think ultimately, if, like for an organization to embrace AI and figure out how to innovate their own workflows, like you need somebody who's gonna be like all in on this tool set that's changing every day. So the kind of the three doors to go through is you enlist like a champion. So you find somebody on your team who's already leaning into AI and you kind of deputize them to like do more of that, share their findings with the team, bring the team along. Uh, the second is like if you don't have anybody that's doing that, you do it together. So like you embark
Yeah.
on an AI learning journey together, you commit to trying new tools together and figuring things out. Or the third is you hire a guide. So somebody like Sercante who's doing a lot of this work with clients to kind of do those things with you. So like helping you build AI champions, help you identify workflows that could be improved with AI or specific tools that would move the needle for your business.
I could see doing all the above,
Yeah.
you know, have the internal person get them from zero to run that much faster with an outside team. The thing you said earlier, which is so huge, I think a lot of people, even I forget this, is that, especially when you're like, we call it client side, or you're working at a company and not on other clients, you only see your own, to your point, data, your own processes, everything. But a team like Sercante sees all of them and is able to go, oh, look at these guys. They did this well. They didn't do this well. And like, you can then advise people, don't go down this path. This is a good path, and just save so much heartache and trouble. And the worst thing you could do is have that champion just get like kind of like bummed out and
Yeah.
demotivated. And, I think a lot of companies accidentally do that. They kind of squash their champions. I also don't know how to support them, right? It's like being a marketer of one in a company. You don't have anyone to talk to and bounce ideas off of. So at least having a guide along the path with you could be really cool.
Yeah. 100% agree.
Wow.
That another this is maybe a little off topic from the original myth that we started with, but
Yeah? Are we
uh,
going rogue? We can do that.
yeah. Something else that I've been thinking on a lot right now is like just the space, the entire like marketing playbook is being disrupted by
Totally.
AI. And I think anybody who says that they know how the story is gonna end is lying. Like there's so many different directions that this could go. But one of the interesting data points that I came across the other, and I'm probably gonna butcher this stat, but something like between 60 and 70% of Google searches now end with zero traffic. Like people are searching on Google, they're seeing the AI overview, they're not hitting any websites because they're getting the answer they need and they're moving on to the next thing. And the really scary thing about that for like the way B2B marketers have been marketing for the last like decade is like that makes all of our tactics more and more obsolete. So
Yeah.
like SEO is now a different game
Rip.
because you're like you may or may not be getting credits in the AI summary that may be crawling your website. So SEO is different. Content marketing is different because if you're investing in generating all this content that's then feeding LLMs and people are getting their answers there versus coming to your site, like that's a different ball
Yep.
game. And even things like ABM, like tools like Sixth Sense and Terminus and Demand Base, like they're depending on the intent signals that they're scraping from all these different websites to power their technology. So if searches are resulting in no traffic, like that's not going to be as effective
Right.
either. Um,
Dang.
so I think it's about to get really interesting. Like I think the tactics that have worked for us for a long time, all of a sudden are going to become less effective. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing the open AIs of the world start running ads or
Mm.
um like kind of doing some of the same things that Google did in the early days, like rewriting the algorithm to like promote better content or prevent gamification of people trying to like gain favor or gain placement. And uh, yeah, so it kind of feels like we're going back to the early days again with kind of this shift in how users are engaging with technology, but
Wow.
it's gonna get interesting.
Yeah, and it's a great point to bring up that it's not just another iteration, not just business as usual. Like the idea of, oh, we're getting rid of this cookie or that cookie. This is like dramatically so much different. If even the paths, it's like when a whole river dries up. Like, no, it's over here now. They can like beavers, right? They
Yeah,
can like change the whole typography of a whole national park if they put the dam in this place. And like it totally changes
yeah,
everything. You're like, wait, I had waterfront property, a year ago. Where am I now? Yeah, that's so wild.
100%. That's the perfect analogy for that.
Yeah, right? Damn beaver.
Yeah,
So, what's interesting too is you mentioned it, like the noise, the content noise. It certainly from like a click traffic, but from like my perspective on the pod world, like there's so many people creating content. What can you trust in? I think there was a stat. I don't know if it was Sirius or someone else came out that, back in the old days, you and I just doing our things with Pardot, RIP, called whatever it's called now. Um, and right. And so
yeah,
back in the old days, there was like you had some content and you served it up and all that. Nowadays, the touch points have grown 25, 30 touch points plus 50. all the content pieces. But you know what? My suspicion is it doesn't necessarily mean people are consuming more content. It's almost like that time on page myth where people are like, oh, look, they were on my page 10 minutes. It's like, yeah, or could they just not find what they're looking for? So it's like, are we just serving
Yes.
people up all this garbage content? I wonder what would happen if you could only give your prospect like one piece of content. Like, what would that be? You know?
Yeah. I think that is a really useful frame to look at it in quality over quantity. Because yeah, to your point, like it's just everything has gotten so noisy. Like LinkedIn is almost unbearable. Like the amount of content that people are
I
just
know.
viewing is absolutely insane. And I think like the ease of creating AI generated content is going to kill us. Like I'm in the like marketing agency Black community thing. One of the guys in the group posted this video where he walked through his methodology of he just makes a Google sheet of blog titles and then ChatGPT rewrites the blog titles, writes the blog, posts it to WordPress, and all he has to do is go into WordPress, give it a once over, and hit send. And like, if it's that easy, everybody's just going to be pumping stuff out there, and there's not going to be quality control or fact checking or
Totally.
like the real top element of that. I think like a lot of old school content marketers could bring to the table. It's going to be really hard to break through the noise.
It is. It is. And I feel like this, and I feel like I could talk to you all day, by the way. And I feel like this would be an awesome topic that we should like pick up and run with. Because I know that you become a pumpkin very soon. And like we're both gonna just poof, we run out of time. But like time has flown. Let's put a bookmark and I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this revolution on our next pod together where we're just like, where could it go? And then how do you respond in
Yeah.
the short, mid, and long term for that? But before we go, where do people go to connect with you? If they're not already connected, they probably should be. But like,
Yeah.
where do they go to connect to learn more about you, learn more about Sercante? Maybe they want that AI guide in the process. All right, all right, all right. Like where do they go?
Yeah. Well, I used to say, find me on LinkedIn or like drop sercante.com. But we just talked about how noisy those places are getting.
Yeah.
A really good place to find me in the month of May is we are hosting Marjorie Live, our first ever in-person conference from Sercante. So if you're going to be in Atlanta, May 7th and May 8th, that's a really good place to find me.
Absolutely. Okay. So we'll put links in the show notes. It's in Atlanta. What are the dates again?
Yeah, May 7th, May 8th. It's called Marjorie Live. And we're gonna be talking about a lot of the topics that we covered over the
Love
last
that.
half hour, but AI, marketing tech, sales tech, evolution of tech in general, marketing strategies kind of in this new era. We'll be spending 2 days going deep on that in Atlanta.
And I have been to some of the Sercante after parties, and I like you guys just make events that are just insert every millennial slang for awesome. And like they're just fantastic. And so great knowledge, but also a hell of a lot of fun. So we'll definitely want to have everyone check that out. We'll make sure this episode comes out with enough time to get things booked, to make sure your boss approves things. Or if you're the boss, then just book it because you're the boss. Do it up. Andrea, thank you so much for coming on here. I know it was quick, it was short, but it definitely reminded me just how much fun our conversations always are. So I'm so glad we had a chance to just carve out some time and just get our minds thinking about AI in the future but also what the excuses are and how to prevent those from getting in the way. So thank you for coming here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And those people listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here. I literally ran out of space. I'm starting to get in the little margins over here. Then share this with like one person, 3 people, 9,000 would be cool too. But even one person is thought leadership, just good information in other people's hands. Do you have a friend in marketing that is kind of using that data excuse, or maybe they have an innovation problem? Maybe you can help them out. Let's get them connected. Maybe they need an AI guide. Let's get them connected. So share this with everyone else. And with that, Andrea, thank you again so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.